Hello folks, I'm here to tell you the news that I have piles of books to talk about in this week's episode of Digital Retribution. I'm JR, welcome. Okay, so this is my book haul for April. So essentially, what happened is that because April was such a big month because there was Easter and all the rest of it. And I did a bit of traveling. I was actually sort of able to actually go to bookshops. Unfortunately, the country town that I live in is not a place that has bookshops. We are breeders, not readers up here. Has a decent library, and the library is pretty cool. It's got like a network of writers and stuff like that visit there. But as far as a bookshop itself, we have Big W. Even if you go to Google and type in bookshops near me, it shows you Big W. And if you know Big W, you know exactly, Lee Child and stuff like that is about all they have. Although I did get a pretty good book about Australian cinema from there. Anyway, none of that matters. What we are doing today is looking at the stuff that I got from Amazon and from both Unleashed Books and Harry Hartog when I was last in Sydney. I need to get into Sydney to get into Kinokuniya because I haven't been there for ages and I would like to top up on some manga and stuff like that. But anyway, I've got a stack here and we're going to start to go through it. The first one I've got is... I've mentioned previously in these videos how I didn't realise that they still made book adaptations of films, and I'm pretty stoked that I have discovered the author Tim Waggoner because he has done all three of Ty West's X films. So I've picked up X, and I like it because it's a tiny little book. So this is like a standard sort of a novel, and it's tiny in comparison to it. It reminds me of the books I used to read on the train when I used to go to work, like the James Herbert and stuff like that. They always seem to be little formats. It's not really very big. It's not even 200 pages, but it's the adaptation of Ty West's movie. So I'm pretty stoked for that. I've got to grab myself a copy of Pearl, and I think Maxine has also been released. Sadly, they're super expensive. I think this was like, for a little tiny book that's not very big, it was, well, I think borderline $40. It was like $36, $37, which, when you're a collector, you tend to get used to being ripped off. But yeah, it was a little bit hard to buy this, but I'm enjoying Tim Waggoner's work, so why not? So I just picked it up. Next is a Duncan Ralston one. Ralston's become like sort of the person that got me back into reading. A friend of mine, Shane, who I used to do the Nerds of Oz podcast with, he suggested to me to read Ralston's book Womb, and it enticed me enough to read again. And like I've read a whole book this week. I couldn't tell you the last time I'd read a whole book in a week, and so this is where all of this purchasing of books has come from. I'm all of a sudden invigorated in reading. So this is about a crime author who meets a witch hunter who murders women, and I guess it's sort of got a witchy element to it. I really like Ralston's writing. I've got a bunch of his books now that I've got to get through. So the next book I'm reading is by Aaron Beauregard, and it's called Yellow. And I have Pedo Island Massacre by Ralston to read after this, and this will be soon after that. Grab that one from Amazon. I really like it's a nice, clean and crisp sort of a bound book. Like you can really cut your fingers on the corners of it. I'm so sorry about my throat. I don't know why my voice has suddenly decided to go. Okay, so next I haven't read Stephen King books since I was very, very young. I think the last thing I read was probably The Shining years ago. And last time I was in Sydney, my daughter had a bag of books that she was taking to Vinnies. And in amongst those books were Firestarter and It. These are two that I have not read. This book actually prompted me to watch the remake recently. Less said about that, the better. And I've never read It. I know that a lot of people say that it's a different beast than both versions of it that were made. And I know that the current film version of it, the more recent film version of it, 2017 and 20 or whatever they were, I know that that made the editor of Rue Morgue magazine, Andrea Subasati, really, really angry because they didn't deal with some of the stuff that the book deals with appropriately. So I'm going to be embarking on some King stuff. Like I said, I haven't read King for ages, and I've been a critic of King's work because I've never really dug it too much. I liked other stuff of his a little bit more. Other authors a little bit more, and I'm going to give him a go as an adult because it's been 20 years since I've read anything by him. So these are the two that I'm going to go for. I'm terribly sorry about that. Of course, my phone is not on silent, and I received a phone call while it's sitting here on its charger. I'm not going to start the take again because I'm too far in. Anyway, so yeah, Firestarter. Firestarter about the girl who can start fires with her mind. King's obviously got a thing for psychic girls, and this must be a more recent version of it because it seems to have the more recent look of Pennywise on the cover. But yeah, so two Stephen King books that I'm actually going to give a go. Next is one that I have the first part and the third part, and it's a hot doovalaccy at the moment because there is a film made of book one, and that is Adam Cesare's Clown in a Cornfield 2, Frendo Lives. Speaking of clowns that are killers, we are back doing more clowny shit with Clown in a Cornfield. As always with novels that seem to be aimed at a younger market, the first book is thin, the second book is huge. I imagine by the time it gets to book 7 it will be this big, and the movie will have to be in 2 parts. Love me a clown. Actually did clown training myself as a kid and performed one night in a circus. A lot of fun. Clown in a Cornfield. Frendo. Clown in a Cornfield. My English is leaving me. Frendo Lives. Pretty stoked to have this. And it seems to be that the final girl from the last one has come back in this too. I always like it when they don't do the Friday the 13th part 2 where they just go jog on, you're dead, and actually continue the story of the female lead as well as the beast. Now this is one, The Lamb by Lucy Rose. This is another one from Amazon. I grabbed this because another YouTuber, Criminoli, talked about it, and the sound of it appealed to me. Margot and Mama have lived in the forest since Margot can remember. When Margot isn't at school, they spend quiet days together in their cottage waiting for strangers to knock on the doors. Strays, Mama calls them. Mama loves the strays. She feeds them wine, keeps them warm. She satisfies her burning appetite by picking apart their bodies. That sounds pretty good to me. And it was weird too because it's off the back of me trying to get my hands on a DVD of a film called Lamb that has Noomi Rapace in it, and it just so happens that I heard the word lamb and it made my ears pop up, and I tend to trust Criminoli's judgment, so I've grabbed this. Thanks, Criminoli, you're a legend. Thank you for putting me onto that one. The next book is one that I grabbed from, believe it or not, a St. Vinny's. I tend to hang St. Vinny's when I go to them. Don't mind me, I'm just pulling the price off one of the books that I purchased. Just because I'm a dag, I didn't realise I'd left it on there. But so this is based on. So I'm a big comic guy. You can probably see behind me. There's like She-Hulk and Harley Quinn, and these are all comics and stuff here, all along there. I quite liked the TV series of Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Not the one from the was it 90s or early 2000s. But the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. I didn't like Riverdale too much. I thought it was just like Try Hard Twin Peaks or Try Hard Teen Peaks. But this The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, Season of the Witch. Apparently, it's a prequel to the TV series. It's got the image of the girl who played her in the TV series on it, and it's not illustrated though. It kind of looks like it should be. It's got like all of these dark pages in there. $4 from Vinnie's. Like, at the very worst, I have kept myself away from my phone for a couple of hours and read something about a TV series that I quite liked. So I'm for $4, I'm more than happy to have grabbed that. Next, so last in the novels that I've got, my understanding is that this is, it's been described to me as the type of literature that's read with two fingers, and that is A Court of Thorn and Roses. I've been watching, if any of you follow Digital Retribution or me on Letterboxd, you'll see that my movie watching in the last couple of days has sort of pared back a bit, and it's because I've been watching some fantasy TV stuff, even a little bit of animated He-Man things and like that. And so I'm leaning into a little bit of a fantasy kick at the moment. And I didn't feel like reading Lord of the Rings again. I didn't feel like trying to find my Conan books and stuff like that. So I thought I'll try something new. And even though this is aimed at a female market, apparently, are books aimed at markets like that. But even though everybody I know that's read this has been a lady in some way, I thought that I would give it a go. Something a little bit different. The problem is that like I've got the other two books that I'm right on top of reading right now, and this is going to be after those. I hope that I'm still into the idea of watching a fantasy thing. Reading a fantasy thing when I come back to it. So fingers crossed that would happen. Sarah J. Maas, Court of Thorn and Roses. Next. Now, because I draw a little bit and I'm a comic fan, I'm a massive lover of Junji Ito. And I like manga as well. I have an amazing book called Manga in Theory and Practice, which is by Hirohiko Araki. I probably got that wrong, but it's the guy that created JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. But Junji Ito has a book that's sort of about the origins of where he gets his ideas for his stories. Nice hardcover thing. I've been looking at this on Amazon for ages. Oh, look at that. See how the light shines on that? That's cool. I've been looking at this on Amazon for a while, and it sort of sat at a $40 mark, and I found it at an Unleashed Books, and I'm guessing that they must have had it mid-price because it was sub $20. So I grabbed it. But yeah, it sort of engages us with where the ideas that Ito comes up with, and how he puts them onto the page. There's a little bit of occasionally some, I'll see if I can find a page with it on there. You'll occasionally find like some ideas that he's got where he's been fleshing out his drawings and things like that. But if you're interested in the craft of what Junji Ito does, that is probably a good choice of a book to read. That will be sort of fairly soon on my read list. And finally, for those who are movie fans, I've grabbed this headpress book, which is by Chris Alexander. Chris Alexander has been in the horror biz for years. I can't remember if he was an editor of Fango or Rue Morgue or both, but he's been around the traps. Here we go. It says right here, filmmaker, former Fangoria editor-in-chief and Corman Poe author Chris Alexander. So Art Trash Cinema certainly goes through a bunch of movies, and not just horror, but a little bit of everything. I mean, as you can see there's the Elephant Man right smack bang in the middle. But it goes through like a whole pile of movies that sort of lean into the more unusual. I think even Night Patrol, the comedy Night Patrol that had Linda Blair is in here. I'm sure that I've seen it in here, but it's a discussion on weird and odd films, and like when you consider that like everything from sort of here to here is all books about cinema, this will fit in perfectly with that. Chris is really active on Instagram as well and seems to be a really nice guy, so I was more than happy to grab his book. And it's a nice chunky tome as well. I like them thick, if you know what I mean. Like them thick. So yeah, so that's the book haul. I will be back probably next week with a book review about Matthew Stokoe's Cows, and I'm going to try and maintain those reviews a little bit more often. Please like this video, leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you think. I'd love to hear about what you're reading. I'd love to see if you've read any of these and what your thoughts on them were. If you could have a look at the website, digitalretribution.com, that would be great. Follow us on YouTube and on Instagram at Digital Retribution Oz, that's OZ. That would be awesome. Thank you so much for watching. It's been a pleasure talking to you about my adventures in literary horror with using Dead Tree technology. I'll catch you next time. Thank you so much. Bye.